o krátku prezentáciu, ktorá nás možno trošku dostane do témy, keďže ide o pomerne technickú tému. Potom budeme diskutovať a na záver tu bude priestor pre vaše otázky nielen cez mikrofón, ale potom pokojne môžete využívať aj slajdo a posielať aj priebežne, keď vás niečo napadne. Takže vítajte a môžeme asi začať.
Madam Moderator, thank you very much. I must admit I didn't study your name, so... Marcela. Marcela. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be with you today and to be able to exchange with you. I would suggest to set as a rule that the sky is the limit, or rather Europe is the limit. Our exchange this afternoon doesn't have to limit itself to the future of cohesion policy after 2020. Anything which you have on your minds related to the future of our continent and Slovakia as a prominent actor of this continent, feel free to share your thoughts with us today. I have been asked to make a very short presentation about the budgetary proposals the Commission has put forward at the beginning of May and the detailed proposals on cohesion policy it has adopted at the end of May. So I will be doing this in a rather condensed form and hope that on that basis then we can engage our discussion today, if this functions. I don't know where I should. It's not switched on. Yeah. You see, I can still make some technological progress. So now it's switched on. Wow. Here we go. So perhaps just a few words about the European budget. The European budget represents today 1%, exactly 1% of the GDP of the Union. And today the Union is composed of 28 member states, but as you will know, the United Kingdom, quite a weighty member of the Union, will be leaving us before we start the next programming period. That will mean that we will be losing 15% of the EU's GDP with the UK leaving. And so there will be quite some adjustments required because the Union altogether will be somewhat poorer. This is one side of the equation which the European Commission has had to struggle with in preparing its proposals. The other side, you see some elements of it on this screen. The other side is namely that as compared to when we last made proposals, so for the period 2014-2020, 7 years ago, the Union looked different and had different needs from today. Since then, we have been facing some migratory pressures which we hadn't had before on our external borders. We have faced security threats of different types linked to terrorism, linked to some external state actions, think of cyber criminality. And we have also faced some bumps on the road of the Eurozone with some significant tensions to overcome there. So, you know, Brexit on the one hand and some new, quite pressing needs on the other forced the Commission to rethink quite a bit the equilibrium of the European budget. Starting with the overall volumes, I mentioned that the budget today is 1% of the GDP of the 28. What we propose for the next period is 1.11% of the GDP of the 27, which is a smaller one. In euros, this would be an increase, but a very modest increase altogether. But you already hear some member states who say, sorry guys, Brexit means you have to adjust the budget downward. You have to cut the European budget so that we remain at 1% of the new EU's GNI. And these voices you hear from the Netherlands, you hear from Sweden, you hear from Denmark, you hear from your neighbor Austria, for instance. The Commission has not made that choice. It has made the choice of proposing something which we believe is both realistic, so we move significantly up from 1% to 1.11, and ambitious because we would be covering some of those new needs. So you can see that we would have as a totally new area of spending security and defense. It's about internal security, and it's about stimulating cooperation in the defense sector, and there think about, you know, the armament industry and the defense sector at large. So it's about research and development, prototyping in the defense area, because you should know that the European Union is forbidden by the treaty to finance military, anything military. So we have to remain quite upstream from that. There is quite a significant increase there in the financing we propose for external actions, and the main reason for that is the migration pressure. And we would want, through that and through increasing development aid in the countries of origin of much of the economic migrants or asylum seekers, notably the Western Africa, the Horn of Africa, but obviously also the whole region of the Middle East. We would try to improve prospects there so that the migratory pressure decreases. There is also a proposal to become collectively ambitious on protecting our borders, our external borders better. And we should not forget that those borders by now are common borders. We have a Schengen area. When we take the plane from Bratislava to Brussels, where we come from, we don't need to show our ID to a border guard. There are no controls. And if we want this to survive in the future, we clearly need to ensure that everyone trusts that the common external borders are protected correctly. So one of the proposals of the Commission there is to build up progressively a common border guard capacity of up to 10,000 border guards. There is one new area also hidden in here. On economic and monetary union, we propose to complete the instruments we have to make economic and monetary union more resilient to crises. We propose, for instance, a reform support program which would be endowed with 25 billion euros and which would serve as a stimulant for member states to pursue structural reforms, making them more resilient. There is a second mechanism which is proposed, which would be offering some support to individual Eurozone members who would be facing a serious downturn in their economic cycle. There would be temporary support offered to these member states in the form of loans to sustain public investment levels and therefore counter the economic downturn in that member state. I end with some reinforced means which would be devoted to our European Research and Innovation Framework Program. It's called Horizon 2020 today. It would be called Horizon Europe tomorrow. And also with something which is embedded in here, a program you probably have heard about, Erasmus, which finances the studies of young people, mostly also outside of their home member state, and which would in the future also allow for more exchanges at the level of secondary schools, so not just at university level. And to make all this fit into the tight equation, the Commission has had to adjust downward, on the one hand, the common agricultural policy and cohesion policy, which is partially here and partially here. For cohesion policy specifically, it would mean in real terms, so in constant prices, a reduction by 10% of the overall envelope available in the coming period. Content-wise, this meant that we had to think particularly hard about how to maximize the added value of cohesion policy. And for that purpose, we were guided by 4 key words. One, that we thought we needed to modernize the objectives of the policy in terms of investment focus, and I'll develop briefly on that in a minute. And we had to make the policy quicker, because today it is extremely slow, more flexible, and definitely much simpler than today, especially for beneficiaries and so for the ones carrying out specific projects. In terms of approach, we believe that cohesion policy, despite the budgetary constraints, is very useful all across Europe and should remain available all across Europe in all European regions. But for sure, we at the same time wanted to continue to concentrate the vast majority of means on the less developed regions of Europe and on the less developed member states of Europe. And you can see that we slightly increased, in fact, the share going to the poorest by now reaching, under our proposal, 75% of the overall financial amounts available. I said I would develop slightly on the new policy objectives, so investment priorities we would be proposing to member states. The first one is basically about innovation, and not of the rocket science type, but of the very practical type, in order to ultimately improve productivity and competitiveness of both the public sector and private enterprise. So behind that, you can find incremental innovation of production processes. You can find digitization of business and public administration. You can find the support to SMEs, and you can find generally technological diffusion. The second policy objective would be about supporting sustainable growth, which we call a greener, low-carbon Europe. So there, very simply, it's about sustainability from the environmental point of view and also from the climate point of view. The third policy objective would be about infrastructure, connecting infrastructure, transport infrastructure, ICT networks, and energy networks. The fourth policy objective would be dealing with the social dimension of cohesion. So this is about skills, but also importantly about social inclusion. And you might have heard that we propose under cohesion policy to allow member states to go for medium to long-term integration measures of legally residing migrants in the member states. And finally, there is a last objective which is not of a thematic nature, but which is about local approaches. It can be at different territorial levels. It can be at the level of cities, municipalities generally. It can also be at the level of specific territories which would have a particular challenge to be faced. We discussed in the course of the day the initiative called Coal Regions in Transition. There is one identified in Slovakia, and this is definitely one well-defined challenge and well-defined geographical area which could benefit from such an integrated territorial approach. Mine doesn't work. I'm in your hands. Thanks a lot. One last word perhaps on what all this means for Slovakia in financial terms. You can see here that talking about convergence and the cohesion of the European continent, well, over the past 7 years, the picture has been extremely mixed. We have a very positive and happy story to tell for quite a number of member states who have, in terms of GDP per capita, grown more quickly than the European average, and some much more quickly than the European average. If you think that Lithuania, for instance, gained 15 percentage points as compared to the EU average in 7 years, meaning an average of 2 percentage points per year, it is quite remarkable. And this has brought Lithuania up from 61% of the EU average 7 years ago to now 76% of the EU average. You also see quite remarkable convergence, unsurprisingly, by Poland, which has gained 12%. Latvia, Estonia have been doing very well, and Slovakia has also been doing, performing quite strongly, gaining 8 percentage points, moving up from 70 7 years ago to 78 today. But then there is also a reminder of the dramatic consequences of the economic crisis on those member states hit hardest. You can see that Greece has lost 25 percentage points. That's more or less as much as during the depression of the early 1930s, meaning that Greece fell back from 94% of the EU average to 69%. And with 69%, Greece finds itself at the same level as Hungary and Poland today. And then you also had some significant losses of more than 10% in Spain, Italy, and Finland. So this was quite a challenge, because according to our normal way of allocating financial envelopes between the member states, GDP is fundamental, GDP at regional level. And if we had simply kept the method as it was until today, we would have had very extreme changes in those financial allocations from one period to the next. We did not feel that this was desirable from the point of view of sustaining the convergence dynamic which one can see in these member states in green, nor politically sellable to have these extreme changes. So we tried to adjust things in such a way that there would be no extreme losers from one period to the next, and certainly no big winners from one period to the next, given that on average we had to cut by 10%. Very concretely, here you can see the average aid intensity per capita in the present period, which is the part in green, and for the coming period, 21-27, as we are proposing it. The member states are ranked according to their national level of development. So Bulgaria is right at the left, being today the least developed member state, with a GDP per capita of 48% of the EU average. And then you move up. I said Greece, Hungary, Poland, they are now at 69%. Portugal at 78, Slovakia at 78. Then you have Spain at 91, Czech Republic at 88, and then you move up here beyond 100% with France and so on. The first thing I'd like to point out to you is that here you can see the concentration of the means, of the financial means of the policy on the poorer member states. You can see that here, more developed member states, Netherlands is the minimum with around 12 or 13 euros per head per year. And you can see the top, Estonia, which was at more than 400 and which now would be at around 320. So you see there a multiple of around 25 between the two aid intensities. And for Slovakia, you can see that Slovakia would remain, just like in the present period, the second highest beneficiary per head, which I would suggest is quite remarkable given its relative level of development, right? Because there are many who are less developed than Slovakia. The reason for this is that we are talking about a regional policy, and that in Slovakia, as you would know, there are very, very stark differences in levels of regional development between the most western part around Bratislava and the eastern part of the country. And this is taken into account in order to calculate these different levels of support. I end with what we call the eligibility map of Europe. We have three categories of regions. The regions which are the less developed, which are below 75% of the EU average, a category which is an intermediate category between 75 and 100, and then the more developed, which are beyond 100. This is an illustration of the happy story I was talking about, that there are many member states that have converged very significantly over the past 7 years. 7 years ago, so in the present period, here you only had red. You only had less developed regions. Now for the future, you can see that Estonia is turning orange from red. Lithuania is turning orange. One western Polish region is turning orange, meaning it is beyond 75%. 3 Czech regions are turning orange as well. They are red in the present period, and they represent more than 4 million inhabitants. So a very significant shift there for the Czech Republic. The region around Sofia is also turning orange. So we can see that there has been quite a lot of convergence taking place there, just like also in the eastern part of Germany. On the other hand, in the present period, Greece was all orange and is turning back now red because of the crisis. And the same is true for Spain. Spain was also orange here and now would fall back to red. So this is basically what I wanted to tell you in a big nutshell about our proposals for the future. We believe that with this proposal, despite the budgetary cuts, we have what it takes in order to continue to successfully promote, together with the member states, because this is a policy which is managed in partnership. We call it shared management. Member states are making all the fundamental decisions under this policy, that with what we have proposed, we will be able to continue on this positive path of a Europe that grows together, of poorer regions approaching the EU average, and ultimately, therefore, of a more solid Europe and a more united Europe. Thank you for your attention.
Ja vás nechám sadnúť, aby ste si mohli zobrať slúchatka. Bolo to veľmi zaujímavé, myslím si, že veľmi dobre na úvod. Ja som teda počula, že máte pripravenú nejakú zaujímavú prezentáciu a naozaj bola zaujímavá, že ako mne veľmi veľa dala, tak v polovici som si povedala, že čo sa budem pýtať. Že aktuálne pre mňa nastáva trošku komplikovaná situácia, ale verím, že ju vyrieším. Tak na úvod taká poloúsmevná otázka. Pred 2 rokmi mi povedal jeden známy, že nikto na Slovensku nebude chcieť byť minister financií po roku 2020, lebo veď prídeme o tie eurofondy a bude to strašne komplikované a budú veľké výpadky a to proste to bude najhoršie ministerstvo, najhorší post, ktorý môžete dostať. Na druhej strane vy ste prezentovali čísla o tom, ako naozaj sa Slovensku v tom pokrízovom období v porovnaní s Európou veľmi darí. Tak teraz sa vás tak spýtam, lebo však vy ste boli pri tom, keď sa kreovali tieto čísla. Vy by ste chceli alebo nechceli byť slovenský minister financií po roku 2020?
I don't think I would have the competences for that, but certainly I believe that given the present health of the Slovak economy, given its present growth potential, that indeed it is in Europe and that it will be in Europe after 2020, not the most difficult job of Minister of Finance. I have participated in 3 past negotiations of European budgets. And I have heard so many times member states saying, by next time we will be net contributors to the European budget. I haven't seen yet any one of those member states becoming net contributors to the European budget. This demonstrates, I believe, which is also our attempt here, that adjustments in Europe are always progressive, and Commission proposals aim to smoothen out evolutions altogether. And for a good reason, I mentioned it. We don't want the convergence machine suddenly to stop. We want to accompany the positive developments as long as required. What is certain is that Slovakia will be asked, because of Brexit, will be asked to pay more into the European budget, and will, in relative terms, receive a bit less. So if you talk about, these accounting net balances, what I pay to Brussels, what I receive directly from Brussels, which is of course not representative of the overall gains of belonging to the European Union, that net balance, yes, will diminish for Slovakia, but it will remain very much positive overall. If I were Slovak national, if I were attracted by politics, yes, I might be interested in the post of Minister of Finance.
Pani Želková, prejdeme nejakým konkrétnym číslam, tak tie sú, ak sa nemýlim, 14,8 versus 13,3. Mohlo byť horšie v zásade. Sme mali minulý týždeň takú zaujímavú diskusiu s pani eurokomisárkou Jourovou, kde hovorila, mohlo byť ešte horšie. Je to tu pre Slovensko teda dobrá pozícia, alebo to nie je dobrá pozícia, keď sa na to pozrieme tak pragmaticky a neemočne?
Tak presne ako ste povedali, keď sa na to pozrieme pragmaticky a neemočne, možno ten najlepší výraz pre slovenskú vládu alebo pre Slovensko alebo pre oficiálnu pozíciu Slovenska je, že dokážeme s touto sumou žiť. Pretože tak ako Mark pred chvíľočkou prezentoval, musíme rešpektovať reálne skutočnosti. Vieme, že kohezná obálka bola skrátená vo všeobecnosti. Vieme, že do hry vstupujú rozličné priority, ktoré pred 10 rokmi neexistovali, typu migračná kríza a azylové záležitosti. Zároveň Brexit predstavuje signifikantný odliv peňazí a zároveň musíme povedať, že my rozhodne nepatríme medzi chudobné krajiny. To číslo, ktoré svedčí za všetko, je následovné. V roku 2003 náš priemer HDP voči priemeru Európskej únie bol 55% v roku 2013 a v roku 2017 sme dosiahli 77% priemeru úrovne HDP. Takže sme naozaj niekde inde. A ešte iba jeden argument. Minulý rok vydala Európska komisia pozičný dokument, takzvaná biela kniha, kde prezentovala 5 alternatív, ako by Európska únia mala vyzerať. A jedna z alternatív bola mierne, by som povedala, tragická, že kohezná politika vôbec nemá existovať. Takže toto celé vytvára platformu preto, aby sme si naozaj povedali, že 10% nie je vôbec veľa, že ten cut nie je vôbec signifikantný a ešte by som ho doplnila o jednu veľmi zaujímavú informáciu. Napriek tomu, že tie shared management programy, to znamená Európske štrukturálne investičné fondy, ktoré k nám možno prídu po roku 2021 alebo po roku 2020, začíname rokom 2021, tak sú doplnené o centrálne riadené programy. A v centrálne riadených programoch je až 175 miliárd eur navrhnutých. To znamená, sú to tie programy, o ktorých hovoril Mark, že sú priamo riadené Európskou komisiou. ale aj tam sa Slovensko môže hlásiť. Musím povedať, že v súčasnom období sme celkom nedostatočne nie dobre implementujeme tieto programy, chceme sa zlepšiť, ale práve týchto 175 miliárd nám dáva ako keby doplnkovú sumu k tejto sume, o ktorej sme pred chvíľočkou hovorili. To znamená, že vytvára to aj v nás takú mieru súťaživosti, že OK, minus 10%, ale poďme sa snažiť o viac práve z tejto obálky pri centrálne riadených programoch, ku ktorej sa možno ešte dostaneme, lebo je to veľmi zaujímavá téma.
Ja by som sa chcela dostať k tomu, že ja som z tej prezentácie mala pocit, že máme také akože, že pripravujeme moderný rozpočet, moderný systém financovania, ktorý odráža realitu, pozeráme sa na veci, ktoré asi by nás mali trápiť. Určite, keď sme riešili aktuálne obdobie, tak nikto nevedel, že bude migračná kríza, že budú problémy, ktorým aktuálne čelíme. Nehrozia však podobné míny, ktorým čelíme v súčasnosti, že OK, my si pripravíme na prvý pohľad moderný rozpočet, ktorý bude riešiť migračnú krízu a problémy migrácie, bude to riešiť aj v ohniskách, budeme riešiť vedu a výskum, podľa niektorých trošku neskoro, ale dobre, že aby sme boli tak konkurencieschopnejší, ale nehrozí, že naozaj sa po roku 2020 stane niečo, čo nás ešte nejak zásadne prekvapí a že ten rozpočet alebo ten viacročný rámec nebude použiteľný v tých reáliách, ako sa to stalo istým spôsobom aj v súčasnosti, že na to nebol pripravený.
Well, certainly it is a risk we face when we set frameworks for such a long period. And the European budget has this feature of great stability over a number of years. There is a good reason for that. It is because most of the spending is in fact of an investment type, requires more time for planning. Obviously, Europe, the Commission, tries to factor in everything that is known when a budget is prepared, proposed, and then negotiated, usually over 1 to 2 years. If I take the example of the last time, the Commission had made a proposal in 2011 and an agreement ultimately between the heads of state and government of all the member states came about in February 2013, nearly 2 years later. And by then, the dramatic consequences of the economic crisis had become apparent, especially in Greece and in Spain and in Portugal. And so before the negotiations ended, suddenly some new ideas appeared, which were not in the Commission proposals initially, and it was linked to youth unemployment, which was a particular challenge at that point in time. And so it became part of the final agreement. But 1 year later, we had the migration crisis, which had not been foreseen, and we had a very constrained European budget with very limited unallocated margins and very limited mechanisms for flexibility. How did we go about it? By being imaginative, I would say. There is an agreement with Turkey for Turkey to block any attempts to cross over to Greece. This agreement was made in 2016. The compensation measure which was agreed with Turkey was that Turkey would be receiving 3 billion euros in financial support in order to keep Syrian asylum seekers in Turkey. And there are more than 1.5 million of them. So you can imagine that the cost to Turkey is much higher than those 3 billion, but that was the agreement. We couldn't find the 3 billion under the European budget. We found 1 billion, and there was an agreement finally that the member states themselves would divide up the other 2 billion. For the future, what we are proposing is for the EU budget to have more flexibility, because we believe that is the answer in order to be able to react to unforeseen events. So we have proposed a general reserve mechanism which could be mobilized for new needs in the future. This is one thing. And specifically under cohesion policy, we are proposing that after 5 years of the 7 years, the priorities which member states are pursuing under cohesion policy should be looked at again. If there are fundamental changes, programs could then be modified for the last 2 years.
Pripadajú nám otázky na slajdo, tak možno ja som tak zamýšľala počas odpovede, že tá moja časť bude taká kratšia, a keď sa hodí nejaká otázka, ktorá je na slajdu, aby sme pekne nadväzovali, tak ja sa ho potom spýtam. Takže ja sa nepozerám do telefónu zo súkromných dôvodov, ale mám tu slajdu, takže kvôli tomu. Veľká téma, ktorá sa riešila, nebola tá len migrácia, a vlastne asi som nemala ani pocit, že nejak zaznievali nejaké zásadné kritické hlasy voči tomu, že ideme nejakým spôsobom riešiť z európskych zdrojov migračnú krízu. Čo bola taká veľká téma, bolo, že dobre, tak poďme viac investovať do inovácií, dávame viac peniaz do vedy a výskumu. Európska únia ako taká musí byť viac konkurencieschopná, musí sa vedieť presadiť v globálnom meradle. Ono sa to rieši samozrejme aj teraz priebežne, ale nie je to trošku neskoro, že sa to stáva z jednou takých veľkých priorít. A možno to je otázka na vás oboch, že jedna, že či Slovensko využíva ten potenciál inovovať a byť konkurencieschopný z európskych zdrojov, a či Európa to neoznačila, alebo nezačala o tom viac hovoriť ako o priorite trošku neskoro. Či sme nepremeškali nejaký čas?
Tak ja odpoviem za Slovensko. Ja si myslím, že Markova pozícia bola, že oni nič nezmeškali. My sme podľa mňa niečo zmeškali, to sa musíme priznať. V oblasti Smart Specialization máme naozaj čo doháňať. Chcem ale povedať, nechcem ani kritizovať, ani hovoriť nejakú bolesť dozadu, pretože asi sme tu na to, aby sme skôr dostali nejaký nový vietor do plachat a snažili sa viac riešiť inovácie, výskum ako doteraz. Chcem povedať, že Slovensko konečne prijalo stratégiu, ktorú voláme inteligentná špecializácia, respektíve Smart Specialization, kde rozdelila výskum a inovácie do 5 domén. Ja ich teda aj prečítam. Sú také, by som povedala, tie názvy sú také, by som povedala, jednoduché, a práve pre tieto názvy sme ich kreovali, aby naozaj aj bežní ľudia pochopili, o čom je Smart Specialization. Čiže týchto 5 domén je následovných. Máme automobily pre 21. storočie, priemysel pre 21. storočie, digitálne Slovensko a kreatívny priemysel, zdravie obyvateľstva a zdravotnícke technológie a zdravé potraviny a životné prostredie. To znamená, že výskum a inovácie už sa nebudú implementovať v podstate ako balík, že môžete inovovať a skúmať hoci aj tento stôl, parafrazujem, ale naozaj Slovensko si stanovilo 5 domén, kde najviac je potrebné robiť inovácia a výskum, a čo môže Slovensko vytlačiť, respektíve mať pridanú hodnotu, pokiaľ bude skúmať a inovovať týchto 5 domén. Na základe týchto 5 špecializácií alebo 5 domén bol aj rekonštruovaný operačný program výskum a inovácie, a všetky výzvy, ktoré budú prebiehať tento rok, sa budú podľa tohto správať. To znamená, že áno, určite zmeškali sme, mali sme aj problémové obdobie, ale verím, že tento operačný program, ktorý má v sebe naozaj veľký potenciál, Slovensko takisto je krajinou, ktorá v sebe nesie veľmi veľa potencie alebo zaujímavých a inovatívnych nástrojov, nápadov a dokonca aj mladých ľudí, ktorí sú schopní v tejto oblasti pracovať, že dokážeme operačný program vyčerpať a práve dokážeme naplniť líniu Európskej komisie, ktorou je práve Smart Specialization a v tomto novom období to bude dokonca priorita, takže budeme sa snažiť, aby sme sami seba nesklamali.
Ako sa vám to počúva, že teda to ideme nejak riešiť? Je to dobrý pocit, že teda robíme takéto zmeny a budeme viac smart a viac inovatívni a budeme na to využívať európske zdroje? To musí byť taká pekná vízia pre človeka z Európskej komisie, keď to počúva.
I think on research and innovation, you can never be too quick. So yes, we are late. As a continent, overall. If I start with cohesion policy, from this period, we have proposed that smart specialization strategies should be compulsory for all regions of Europe. Sometimes it's done at the level of member states, like for Slovakia. Sometimes it's done at regional level, like for instance in Germany. Each and every land went for its own specialization strategy. We see this as a very good step in the right direction because before you start spending money on innovation, it's better to have reflected private and public sector together and research institutes and so on together, what the strengths of and what the highest potential where the highest potential of the region lies. So this is a step which now we have completed, and we have, starting with this period, imposed a minimum share of cohesion spending which should flow into innovation. We propose to reinforce that for the coming period, and this is where the first policy objective I mentioned about a smarter Europe kicks in. And we would impose minimum levels of spending on this first policy objective for the future. And here we are talking about grassroots innovation, very pragmatic, practical, very important, and it doesn't happen enough in Europe today. I think in terms of digitization of processes in private enterprise, we are not where we should be in Europe. We are lagging behind very significantly. And so it's not about inventing things, it's more about applying what is already available. So I think that we are progressively adjusting cohesion policy so that it can contribute more decisively to this modernization drive. Just as important, and even more important, I think, when we look at how fast the world evolves, is the cutting edge, basic research and breakthrough innovations. This you do not do through cohesion policy. This you do through the big research framework program, today called Horizon 2020, which has 80 billion euros, it's not peanuts, and which will tomorrow, without the UK, have 100 billion euros. Let me give you two examples there. High performance computing. It's crucial because a lot of prosperity in the future will be driven by data and the capacity to crunch data. And for that, you need high-performance computers. 10 years ago, Europe was in the top 5 for high-performance capacity. Today, you have 0 European computers in the top 10. What is in the top 10? Chinese and American. we need to get our act together. If all member states act individually, first, smaller member states cannot afford high-performance computers of their own. They are simply too expensive. And even if you take Germany, it will not be in the top 10 of the world. So we have to pool our means, and this is what we are attempting to do through both Horizon, and some cohesion money could be added to it as well. Take a second example, and certainly whether we like it or not, whether it frightens us or not, a part of the future of the economy, of human activity, and so on, lies there. Artificial intelligence. China is presently investing massively in artificial intelligence. The US is also concentrating very much on that area. Today, Europe is pretty much nowhere. So Europe needs to get its act together, and to get its act together very quickly. We are seeing today, if you look at it geostrategically, we are seeing today that there is a realignment of powers in the world. And it is true for research, it is true, of course, for military capacity, and more generally for influencing the course of development. Europe needs to wake up, and Europe needs to pull its strength together. And part of it, of course, has to happen through the European budget, which will remain very modest, but which can make the difference in those areas.
Vy ste povedali viacero takých zaujímavých vecí. Minulo som bola konfrontovaná s tým, keď som povedala, že Európska únia prestáva byť konkurencieschopná, tak mi tá druhá strana povedala, že tak daj dôkaz, že tak prestáva byť, čak Čína je strašne rýchla, je tam veľmi jednoduchá, Amerika je veľmi rýchla, je tam jednoduchá, ale vy ste uviedli veľmi konkrétne príklady, v čom naozaj Európa zaostáva, že dobre, musíme sa prebudiť, ale nie to nie... Ste aj povedali, že vlastne už stále je neskoro, ale dokážeme ten náskok, ktorý má Čína, majú napríklad Spojené štáty, a aj vzhľadom možno na množstvo jednoduchších procesov, ktoré v tých krajinách sú, dokáže to Európska únia už v tomto období nejakým spôsobom dobehnúť?
Let's not be too self-deprecating and pessimistic either. I mean, Europe has produced loads of Nobel Prize winners, including some who had been supported by research, by the Research Framework Program. And secondly, the examples I gave are examples of today, but ultimately, the decisive breakthroughs of tomorrow might lie still elsewhere. I think that if we look back over the past 20 years, 20 years ago, no one would have thought of the revolution brought about by smartphones, and all that is linked to smartphones. So it is not here about being very predictive of what will be the fundamental technological drivers of tomorrow, but I think these are patterns, the ones I mentioned on artificial intelligence, on high-performance computing, which should wake us up as Europe to say that somehow, yes, we are not coordinated enough, we are not putting enough things together in order to have the same means as others in what seems today to be those important areas. I can take also the reverse example of the GSM standard, which led basically to Europe suddenly being the leader through Nokia, for instance, on 2G technology back then. Now we see that China is on the verge of being dominant on 5G. again, these are just examples that the world is moving very fast, and that we need to be open to change. We need to pay enough attention to innovation. We need, I think, to weigh again the balance between the principle, the precautionary principle, and the capacity to test things. If we take, for instance, autonomous driving, yeah, you have a lot of rules in Europe which don't allow to test self-driving cars like they are doing it in California for the moment. So, you know, there are a few things we need to reflect about beyond, in fact, money in Europe, to be able to hold our place in the world, and what is the most important, you know, to ensure the prosperity of this continent in the future.
Vy ste použili nejaký taký dobrý výraz, zabudla, ja som presne chcela premostiť, lebo sa chcem spýtať ešte na jednu pre mňa zaujímavú vec, ktorá padla aj v tej prezentácii, aj sme mali predpripravenú, že by alebo som mala predpripravenú, že by som sa mala spýtať. Bohužiaľ, presne to slovné spojenie som zabudla, ktoré som chcela použiť, takže to nevadí, ale aj v tej prezentácii bolo, že naozaj by mali, alebo že eurofondy by nejakým spôsobom mali podporovať štrukturálne reformy v jednotlivých krajinách. Pani Žiláková, možno ako sa na to pozeráte vy pán, skúsim opäť vaše priezvisko, opäť mi ho Mark, budem vám hovoriť Mark, to je skvelé, to je pre mňa, práve sa cítim konformnejšie v tejto chvíli. Ako sa to dá vlastne dosiahnuť? Dobre, tak keď krajina nebude robiť štrukturálne reformy a prosím nič nedostane, alebo že ako to urobiť v praxi? Spomenuli ste to, ale celkom ma zaujímala tá praktická rovina. Tak možno najskôr vy, pani Žiláková.
Takže v prvom rade musím povedať, že podpora štrukturálnych reforiem sa deje aj v súčasnom programovom období. Dnes je implementácia naviazaná na tzv. Splnenie ex ante kondicionalít. Vyzerá to slovíčko relatívne zložito, ale znamená to to, že Slovensko aj roku pre programové obdobie 2014-2020 nedostalo peniaze len tak, že Európska komisia ich naliala do krajiny, ale predtým, než sme vôbec mohli čerpať, sme museli naplniť podmienky. A tie podmienky boli založené práve na naplňaní určitých reformných cieľov. Ja pre príklad uvediem práve Smart Specialization stratégiu, to znamená, že dostali sme finančné prostriedky až potom, keď sme si schválili vládou stratégiu, že na čo používať výskum a inovácie, na ktoré domény. Napríklad jednou z veľmi dôležitých štrukturálnych reforiem bola aj zlepšenie administratívnych kapacít. To znamená, že funkčný zákon o štátnej správe, respektíve o pracovníkov štátnej správe, ktorí musia byť primerane trénovaní a naozaj musia mať školenia za sebou a naozaj fungovať v rámci určitých regulí, pravidel, ale musia byť aj primerane vzdelaní. Veľmi zaujímavou reformou bolo aj zákon o malých a stredných podnikoch, kde sme sa museli absolútne prispôsobiť legislatíve Európskej únie. Čiže toto sú vlastne štrukturálne reformy, ktoré my si myslíme, že je dobré ich mať, pretože posúvajú nás dopredu. To znamená, že nie sme rozmaznaní, že dostaneme peniaze a míňame si ich halabala, ale naozaj postupujeme v zmysle pravidel a práve Európska komisia nás cez finančné prostriedky a cez tieto štrukturálne reformy a ich podmienky núti zlepšovať si princíp svojho riadenia a svojho štátu. Vy asi hovoríte o tom, čo hovoril Mark pre budúce obdobie, to je tzv. Princíp rule of law. To je už relatívne zložitejšia záležitosť, ktorú prvýkrát nastolila Európska komisia v návrhu viacročného finančného rámca, ktorý hovorí, že pri určitom nenaplnení podmienok právneho štátu je možné pozastaviť európske fondy. Musím povedať, že my nevidíme nejakú obrovskú hrozbu pre našu krajinu, pretože sú tam pomenované také ťažké nedostatky, ako je zle fungujúce súdnictvo alebo prokuratúra. My máme ten pocit, že aj samotná komisia, myslím, Európska komisia nevidí na našu krajinu, že by tieto základné princípy demokracie u nás nefungovali. A zároveň chcem povedať, že to pozastavenie, tak ako je navrhnuté byť pozastavené len pre čerpanie verejných inštitúcií. To znamená, ak čerpá zdroje nejaké ministerstvo alebo iný ústredný orgán štátnej správy, ale nie keď ich čerpa malý a stredný podnikateľ alebo občan, ktorý nemôže trpieť preto, lebo štát nefunguje dobre. Takže toto je návrh, uvidíme, ako sa s tým popasujeme, ešte máme priestor na negociáciu, ale hovorím, štrukturálne reformy ako také podľa môjho názoru sú pozitívnym aspektom v čerpaní európskych fondov, lebo posúvajú krajinu dopredu.
No, ja sa vás ešte dopýtam na marko tohto. Dobre, keď to funguje teda už tak dobre, že teda podnecujeme alebo podnecujeme krajiny, aby robili štrukturálne reformy. Ale keď sa pozrieme na Európu ako takú, tak možno, že niektoré krajiny by potrebovali trošku viac štrukturálnych reform, keď ideme tak trošku na juh. Tak zaznívajú hlasy, že nejaké zmeny by tam boli vhodné. Adina, nemôže Európa možno na štrukturálne reformy tlačiť viac? A po druhé, ako si spomínali vy, pani Žilaková, tak keď sa objavila informácia o tom, že OK, eurofondy nejakým spôsobom naviažeme na rule of law, tak v našich končinách zaznívalo, že idete potrestať našich severných susedov, to znamená Poliakov, a našich južných susedov, to znamená Maďarov, a že eurofondy sa stanú istým politickým nástrojom na, nechcem povedať vydieranie, ale na to, aby krajiny robili iba to, čo chce napríklad komisia. Je to tak, alebo tak nie je?
Let me start with the easy one, the last one. Can I just correct your expression, if you allow? We are not talking about what the Commission wants member states to do. The Commission you have to see, because that is the role attributed to the Commission under the European treaties. The Commission is the defender of the common rules. It is there to watch that member states are all abiding by the rules they have given themselves, first by the treaty itself and by all of them ratifying that treaty through their national parliaments, and secondly through all the legislation based on the treaties, which again member states and the European Parliament decide upon. And when the Commission is in disagreement with a member state about its correct application of European rules, it does not decide on its own. It goes in front of the Court of Justice, because we are a union based on law, and it is for courts to decide on whether the law ultimately is being respected or not. And the question we are faced today with in Europe is a question of the values we share in the European Union. And it is certainly based again on how the treaties are written, the opinion of the Commission, and in fact the opinion of all member states, I believe, that the rule of law is one of those fundamental principles of the Union on which the Union is founded. And it is very important because European citizens sometimes are dependent on the rulings of judiciaries, courts, tribunals in other member states. we have a single market. If you have, commercial disputes, they might be settled somewhere else. And you need to have trust in how the judiciary works in every member state. Let me give you another example. We have a common justice area, and you have a simplified procedure for extraditing suspects of very serious crimes between the member states. Of course, again, this rests on the trust of the member states vis-à-vis the judicial authorities to which they would extradite the accused. So we are talking about pretty fundamental questions here. And what the Commission concretely has proposed is that when it comes to the European budget, because each and everyone needs to have this guarantee that the budget will be managed in a sound way, and that if under the European budget there are disputes, possibly, that they will be settled in the correct way in front of national courts, that therefore we would think it necessary to have a system which, as Denise described it, would allow to suspend certain flows from the European budget to a particular member state of which the Commission would consider, but again not on its own, and I'll just develop for a second on that, that member state does not respect fully the rule of law anymore, and therefore, and to simplify, mainly does not ensure the independence of its judiciary. The Commission would not decide, just like that. It would have to collect evidence from outside bodies as well. There are many international bodies which look at these issues. The evolution of the judiciary in Poland with the successive reforms decided by the present Polish government has been looked at notably by the Venice Commission, which is a commission dependent on the Council of Europe, totally separate institution from the European Union, and this commission of renowned constitutionalists has come to exactly the same conclusion as the Commission, that there are elements of these reforms which undermine the independence of the judiciary in Poland to a significant degree. So it is only on the basis of such converging opinions at international level that the Commission might then act under this system. And it would not be specific to cohesion policy or to another spending area. It would cover the whole budget with, as Denise said, the exception of immediate private beneficiaries. On the link between cohesion policy and structural reforms, there are different types of structural reforms. Denise gave two very good examples of smaller types of reforms or new approaches which we have introduced as preconditions for cohesion spending. These preconditions are meant to ensure that the environment is the right one to produce the right results. Smart specialization we mentioned, so the innovation strategy, if you want. Denise might contradict me, but I bet that if there had been no condition under cohesion policy, today Slovakia would not have an innovation strategy. It only went through the process because there was this, let's call it incentive, or this obligation to go through it. And I think that now Slovakia is happy that it went through it, that it made the effort, but it took this incentive. And this is I would, present it as something positive of cohesion policy. A more difficult issue is with some member states of which one can think superficially that member state needs some very serious, deep, fundamental reforms, for instance, in the area of the pension system or the labor market or the tax system or the education system, you name it. We did not, in our proposals, make a link to cohesion policy. We rather developed a positive approach, a positive incentivizing mechanism to stimulate member states to do the right thing. And it would be underpinned by the possibility of receiving additional financial support outside of cohesion policy if they were to propose and implement such reforms. It is this reform support program I have been mentioning, and we hope that it will have some effect in the future if it is, of course, adopted by the member states and parliament.
Teraz prechádzam na otázky, ktoré zaujímali mňa, padli to aj v slajdo. Niektoré kolegyne asi nebudem mať rada, ale niektoré zlúčim do jednej otázky, pretože sa myšlienka opakuje, tak aby sme sa nepýtali viackrát. Aj vy ste spomínali, že projekty alebo že celý ten systém by mal byť jednoduchší, transparentný, flexibilnejší, čo naozaj vyzerá veľmi dobre a viacerí sa na to pýtajú, že ale ako to plánujete zjednodušiť? Ako by sa malo v praxi čerpanie zjednodušiť? Lebo na Slovensku napríklad, keď častokrát sa uvádza príklad, že keď ste napríklad malá obec a chcete čerpať eurofondy, tak radšej ich nechcete čerpať, lebo to nezvládnete. Čiže ako by celý ten systém mal byť jednoduchší a potom možno aj podotázka. Nie je to väčšia výhoda, ak sa to celé zjednoduší a budeme mať možno aj my sami väčší priestor na to, ako zdroje využívať, než mať proste 14,8 versus 13,3. Nie je toto dôležité?
So now they seem to be positively surprised by how far we went there. So we believe that this is really a turning point for what has been until now a policy which became more and more complex. So now I think we are turning that page and moving really to something much lighter and much less driven by the obsession of controls.
Takže ako Mark povedal, komisia predstavila vo svojom návrhu až 50 zjednodušujúcich zmien, čo my veľmi vítame, lebo presne ako ste povedali, Marcela, že tá byrokracia zabíja prijímateľov eurofondov, to je úplná pravda. A myslíme si, že tieto návrhy sú jednoznačne výborné, budeme ich analyzovať. Na čom chceme ešte viac spolupracovať s Európskou komisiou je zdôraznenie princípu, ktorý už dlhodobo presadzujeme v rámci našej pozície, a to je audit orientovaný na výsledok. Ja teda predstavím, čo to v praxi znamená. Dnes sa stáva úplne bežnou záležitosťou, že auditori, respektíve kontrolóri, ktorých je pomaly viac ako prijímateľov, čiže na každého prijímateľa sú 2 kontrolóri, čo je teda naozaj akože už nie sranda, ale už sa to stáva realitou, tak kontrolujú administratívne papierovačky, to znamená kontrolujú, či ste skutočne sedeli pri počítači a či ten počítač má svoje číslo a či ste vykázali mandaje, respektíve timesheety, to sú vlastne tie denné výkazy, že ste na projekte robili. Ale my si myslíme, že toto nie je to najpodstatnejšie, čo treba kontrolovať. Kontrolovať treba výsledok projektu, to znamená, že či boli skutočne postavené dané kilometre diaľnice alebo cesty prvej triedy, či sudcovia boli vyškolení a či sa zmenila legislatíva kvôli tomu, že boli vyškolení sudcovia. alebo že či škôlka bola zateplená a deti, ktoré tam chodia do školy, respektíve do škôlky, čím nie je zima. To znamená, že výsledok, ktorý je merateľný a ktorý by mal byť teda zdokumentovaný. A potom naozaj sa aj zníži tá administratívna náročnosť na ľudí, ktorí naozaj skutočne pracujú na projekte, sú naozaj reálnymi príjimateľmi a odoberie sa aj tá nechuť vypracovávať denné výkazy a ukazovať čísla vzadu na počítači alebo na tlačiarni. Takže toto si myslíme, že je zdôraznené v návrhu, ale chceli by sme ešte viac spolu s komisiou, čiže berieme participatívny príklad si za svoj, že chceme participovať ešte na zlepšení tejto legislatívy tak, aby presne ako ste hovorili, že neboli sme zaťažení byrokraciou, aby naozaj došlo k skutočnému zjednodušeniu, ale veľmi si vážime tých 50 návrhov, s ktorými komisia prišla, lebo znamenajú zjednodušenie.
Ďalšia otázka, ktorá mi tu svietia, mňa veľmi zaujala, že ako to bude ponovom s Bratislavou. Bratislava nečerpá fondy, lebo je na tom fajn, ale ako aj v otázke zaznieva, za inými hlavnými mestami zaostáva, takže či sa plánuje nejaká zmena pravidiel.
Možno začnem ja, teda pre zmenu. Je veľmi zaujímavá zmena, ktorú takisto vítame, je to, že síce Bratislava nie je tým typickým príkladom, že môže čerpať veľa, pretože naozaj to HDP nás nepustí, ale zmena je v tom, že z menej rozvinutého regiónu môže nastať transfer finančných prostriedkov do viac rozvinutého regiónu až v podobe 15%. Doteraz to bolo 3%, čiže v súčasnom programovom období sa mohlo shiftovať len 3%, teraz to bude 15%.
To znamená, že ak nejakom menej ja sa dopýtam, lebo to ma celkom zaujíma, to som ešte nepočula, že keď v nejakom menej rozvinutom regióne, napríklad na Slovensku, je problém s dočerpaním nejakých fondov, tak sa to môže pretransformovať do Bratislavy.
Presne tak. A čiže tých 15% je budúcnosť a 3% je momentálna situácia. Chcem ale povedať, že aj Bratislava môže čerpať aj teraz. Nie je to až tak limitované, ako Bratislava teda plače, lebo z kohézneho fondu sa môže byť prijímateľom z kohézneho fondu. Kohézny fond vlastní ministerstvo dopravy a dnes, keď sa prejdete po Starom moste, tak Starý most bol kompletne financovaný z kohézneho fondu, kde bola Bratislava prijímateľom. Všetky električky a trolejbusy, tie, ktoré vidíte nové, klimatizované a postavené naozaj aj s dôrazom na handicapovaných občanov, tak tie sú takisto financované z kohézneho fondu. Čiže dá sa vyšívať aj dnes, aj verím, že sa bude dať do budúcnosti, ale tých 15% je novinka, to je zvýšenie z 3%.
Ďakujeme za informáciu. Ja sa stále k tomu tak staviam, že čo napíšeme, tak už viem, čo napíšeme v tejto chvíli. A ďalšia otázka. Nepovažujete za vhodné prehodnotiť rozdelenie Slovenska LDR, lomené MDR, aj v spojitosti s NRD? A ja sa veľmi ospravedlňujem, ale tentokrát ja presne neviem, čo znamenajú skratky, ale verím, že vy budete vedieť, alebo vám ukážem ešte, aby ste vedeli raz. Tu máte toto. Aha, ok, už som tam.
To sú menej rozvinuté regióny. Možno, že it's maybe the question for you, because it's about the less developed regions, I mean, but the analysis is like...
I think that, as I mentioned this morning in our official exchanges, notably with the self-administered regions and the representatives of municipalities of Slovakia, that there is obviously a question which merits debate within Slovakia in view of the coming programming period, and that is what the role of the different levels of public authorities could be playing in the coming period. when it comes to the exact geographical subdivision or statistical subdivision of the country, allow me to be blunt, and it is related to the complaints coming from Bratislava city. I think that based on the present way of allocating financial support under cohesion policy, the subdivision for Slovakia is the best imaginable in order to have the highest financial support for the country. Because you have defined a capital region in a very narrow way, but a lot of economic activity is concentrated there. So artificially you are, let's say, increasing the apparent prosperity of that very small region, but you are decreasing also artificially the prosperity of the surrounding area, which is not as poor as the statistics would suggest. And this is very helpful for the overall national allocation of Slovakia. So given that we are on top of it offering additional flexibility on where that overall financial allocation can be spent on the territory, I think that Slovakia can sleep easy and doesn't need to ask itself too many questions.
Pribúda nám tu veľmi veľa otázok, takže ja sa ich pokúsim všetky reflektovať. Verím tomu, že sa mi to podarí. Z jednou z horizontálnych priorít je aj cooperation in mainstream. Ako vieme dosiahnuť to, aby fungoval lepšie ako po roku 2020 než v súčasnosti?
Well, if I understood the question correctly, what we have today is a rule book which really inhibits program authorities from looking outward. It's all very inward looking because there are very stringent rules and very stringent limits to spending some of your allocation outside of your program area. In the future, we would be opening up much more broadly such possibilities. It would be up to program authorities to decide whether some support of projects outside of the program area would be beneficial for the area itself. Slovakia is a country with a lot of long borders with its neighbors. There is definitely still a lot of potential of cross-border cooperation. We are trying through this change for the future to also stimulate the financing of cross-border projects, not through the very limited means of cross-border cooperation. There is really not much money we have for that. It's in fact for the whole of Europe and all the borders of Europe far less than the Slovak allocation, only the Slovak allocation. So you can imagine it's really very small amounts of money. You cannot really do infrastructure projects with that, but you could do it through the means available under national or regional programs. So this is what we try to stimulate in the future.
Teraz pani Žiloková, tu je otázka na vás. Čerpanie eurofondov je v súčasnosti tragické. Sme na chvoste...
Suggest we have become too technological here. Is there any question which anyone would like to ask live?
I asked just two questions and then if you want to.
You see, sometimes Europe is innovating too much. No, but please.
Čerpanie eurofondov v súčasnosti je tragické, sme na chvoste EU. Cíti centrálny koordinačný orgán za túto situáciu zodpovednosť, respektíve kto je zodpovedný?
Tak určite som zodpovedná ja, jednoznačne. Nie, musím povedať, že čerpanie vôbec nie je tragické, ako to pomenoval niekto na slajdo, pretože sme niekde v priemere EU28 a musím povedať, že nábehová krivka je vo všeobecnosti taká, že najprv musíte mať schválené všetky postupy, ktoré Európska komisia vyžaduje. Spomenula som ex ante kondicionality, dezignácie, to znamená veľmi dôležité procesy, ktoré hovoria o tom, že máte pripravené na riadiaci orgán, teda na jednotlivých ministerstvách kompletne ľudí na to, aby čerpali finančné prostriedky. Potom musíte mať hotové verejné obstarávanie. Väčšinou sú to naozaj veľmi zložité obstarávacie procesy, ktoré vstupujú do samotného projektu. A chcem ešte povedať, že tých 13%, ktoré máme dnes, ktoré predstavujú čerpanie, znamenajú aj zvýšenie čerpania až o 1000% za 2 roky, odkedy funguje úrad podpredsedu vlády a takzvaný centralizovanejší manažment eurofondov, čiže tých 1000% za 2 roky tiež znamená niečo, že sme sa pohli z 1,23% až na 13%. Samozrejme, zodpovedné sú, sa opravím, to prvé som mienila ako vtip, riadiace orgány, to znamená, že riadiace orgány sú aj v zmysle nariadenia, to znamená generálneho nariadenia z roku 2013, je to nariadenie Európskej komisie zodpovedné plne za svoje čerpanie. Oni dostali alokáciu, operačné programy, musia sa snažiť, aby nemali decommitment, aby peniaze neprepadli do Bruselu. O čo sa my môžeme snažiť na centrálnom koordinačnom orgáne pod vedením podpredsedu vlády, ktorým bol pán Pellegrini a teraz je pán Raši, je, že naozaj ich tlačíme. Tlačíme ich ako môžeme, o tom hovorí aj to 1000% zvýšenie. Stále nie sme ale spokojní, musím povedať, že mohlo to vyzerať oveľa lepšie. Máme ale plány, že operačné programy, ktoré čerpajú slabšie, sú riešené priamo na vládnej úrovni, že ministri rozhodujú o tom, aké kroky sa podniknú, aby sa čerpalo lepšie, hľadajú sa náhradné projekty, vymýšľajú sa stratégie, to znamená, že aj minulý rok bolo v riziku až 175 miliónov eur, ktoré mienili byť prepadnuté. A nakoniec sme to znížili na minimum. Takže Slovensko nečerpá vôbec tragicky, tých 13% nie je tragické číslo a hovorím, že tie projekty, ktoré sa začali obstarávať pred 2 rokmi, dnes sú už obstarané, môže sa začať s fyzickou implementáciou projektu a nábehová krivka bude vyššia a vyššia. Takže toľko.
Načrtli ste nám optimistickú budúcnosť, to je celkom dobré, ale celkom dnešná diskusia je celkom optimistická, to je veľmi príjemné a veľmi, veľmi fajn. Nie, no tak stále sa rozprávame o negatívnych veciach, takže hovoriť o pozitívnych veciach je celkom zmena paradigmy. Ja teraz dám jednu otázku zo slajdu a potom, ak niekto sa chcete pýtať, tak sa prosím vás prihláste a pýtajte sa. Možno naozaj to bude aj trošku také osobnejšie a interaktívnejšie. Nemali by sme sa odkloniť od súťaže medzi projektami a radšej sa územne dohodnúť, čo sú priority, vytvoriť akčný plán, vyhlásiť výzvu a už len implementovať. To znamená, že, ak som aj ja správne pochopila otázku, že nezúťažiť medzi nápadmi, ale realizovať nejakú víziu, nejakú stratégiu. Môžete sa obidva vyjadriť. Marga, vy sa môžete vyjadriť. Nechce sa vám.
He's so tired. Switch to slow. Súťaživosť je jedno z hlavných prvkov nariadenia súčasných eurofondov. To znamená, že nie je možné len tak projekt niekomu prideliť. Proste je to jeden z hlavných znakov transparentného procesu výberu a tak ďalej. To znamená, že proste to nie je možné. Zároveň je fajn mať akčný plán, ale musíme v zmysle smernice verejne obstarávať. To znamená, že nie je možné projekt prideliť len tak hoci komu a ešte aj existovať bez verejného obstarávania. Čo je dobré, že Európska komisia nám pomáha uvoľňovať určité striktné pravidlá. Musím povedať, že aj dnes bol v parlamente prejednávaná novela zákona o verejnom obstarávaní, ktorá by uľahčila život malým a stredným podnikateľom v rámci eurofondov v zmysle verejného obstarávania. To znamená, že v zmysle smernice, nebudem teda príliš detailná a technokratická, je možné, aby malí a strední podnikatelia robili výber svojich projektov oveľa ľahšie, ako nám to hovorí náš zákon, pretože smernica Európskej komisie umožňuje ľahšie pravidlá. Čiže sa snažíme nebyť pápežskejší ako pápež a už dnes pravidla uvoľňujeme tak, aby sme naplňali legislatívu Európskej komisie, ale zároveň neboli prísnejší, ako sú oni a uľahčovali život hlavne malým a stredným podnikom, pretože oni sú základom ekonomiky tohto štátu. Takže fajn myšlienka z publika, ale určite existujú pravidlá, ktoré sa musia naplňať, ale zároveň hovorím, že sa ich snažíme zľahčovať a zjemňovať.
Ak máte nejaké otázky, hláste sa. Budeme radi aj za osobný kontakt. Budem rada, keď ja nebudem musieť klásť otázky. Nie, že by som sa rada nepýtala, ale. Tak ak nie, je super.
Dobrý deň, som Zeman Zines. Ja som mal tú otázku, ktorá sa vlastne teraz nedostala. Vlastne váš názor na to, že sme sa dneska dozvedeli, že bol pozmeňujúci návrh, nepriama novelizácia a verejného obstarávania o tom toho, že financovanie projektov, ktoré budú z eurofondov, kde je menej ako 50% financovanie, nebude musieť byť verejné obstarávanie. Nie je to také náhodou porušenie nejakej transparentnosti, alebo prečo si myslíte, že tam tá potreba nie je? Akože, možno to nie je váš návrh, ale boli to poslanci vládni, takže asi s tým nejak súhlasíte? Čiže taký váš názor na to?
Takže presne o tomto som hovorila, že aby sme na Slovensku neboli pápežskejší ako pápež. Smernica umožňuje tento postup. Podnikatelia určite nepôjdu bez pravidiel, budú samozrejme naplňať pravidlá hospodárnosti a účelnosti, o ktorých hovorí smernica. Budú si vykonávať vlastné znalecké posudky, ako teda projekt vybrať, ale chcem povedať, že samotný Európsky dvor auditorov minulý týždeň vydal správu, že malé a stredné podniky, ktoré postupujú v zmysle obstarávania nad to, čo hovorí smernica Európskej komisie, práve na Slovensku Slovensko je jediná krajina, ktorá tento spôsob používa. To znamená, že aj poslanci, ktorí dnes tento návrh predložili, podložili túto argumentáciou samotnou smernicou Európskeho parlamentu a nezávislou správou Európskeho dvoru auditorov a práve chcú uľahčiť život malým a stredným podnikom, ktorých vlastne táto zložitá procedúra verejného obstarávania zabíja. Takže chcem len povedať, že budú existovať určité pravidlá, ktoré budú, nehovorím, že rigidné, ale budú, kde sa bude dodržiavať hospodárnosť a účelnosť, ale chcem povedať, že určite sa neporušuje žiadne pravidlo, ktoré nám dávajú e-shift nariadenia. Takže toľko náš názor.
Ešte tak zostaneme tam a potom ešte viem, že tu bola jedna otázka. Aha, pardon.
Vyslovene tomuto sirotka. My samozrejme vítame to, že by sme mohli pod 50% robiť kompletné verejné obstarávanie, lebo určité pravidlá tam zostávajú zachované, to treba povedať. A na druhej strane 50%, áno, je to krok, ale ten malý podnik je práve v tej situácii, že pre neho 50% financovať ten projekt je stále ešte veľa. Teraz nehovorím, že to nie je dobrý krok, hej. Takže tých 50% áno, ale ten malý podnik je podkapitalizovaný u nás. Práve to, že sa rozvíja po 40-ročnej proste pauze a tak ďalej, to nechcem rozberať. Takže aj tých 50%, ak sa od nás bude pýtať, že musíme nakoniec, tak to je, nie je tá hranica ešte taká, ako by sme si predstavovali. Lebo vlastne všetko, čo je na po 10%, musíte znova obstarávať. No. A 50% je dosť.
Tak mali sme dva názory,
Jasné.
relatívne čierno-biele, že niekto tvrdí, že aj to je veľa, vy hovoríte, že je to málo. Ďakujeme za vyjadrenie, že je to dobrý krok, veľmi si to vážime.
Dobrý deň, Martin Hakel, Bratislavský samosprávny kraj. Ja by som trošku elaboroval na tej otázke, ktorú som položil ohľadne dopytovo orientového systému, tej súťaživosti tých projektov, pretože tam možno prišlo k tomu nepochopeniu, pretože my si zase myslíme, poznáme regionálnu integrovanú územnú stratégiu, ktorá nejakým spôsobom zadefinovala potreby toho regiónu a je tam nejaká územná dohoda, ktorá zastrešuje Rada partnerstva. A my si myslíme, že práve toto je spôsob, ako by sme mali posilniť práve tento orgán, ak to môžeme nazývať do budúcna regionálna rada, ktorá by spoločne so štátom, samosprávou, lokálnou, regionálnou, s podnikateľmi, neziskovkami, ako aj vedeckou obcou sa dohodla, aké sú priority pre daný región, na základe samozrejme analýz, urobila si nejakú multikriteriálnu analýzu, ktorú z minulosti sme aj urobili pre základné materské školy a stredné školy, ale ďalej sme sa nedostali. Sme niekde na pol plynu, ale myslíme si, že to má stále zmysel, pretože potom aj keď komunikujete tie potreby v území s tými starostami, čo bola tá požiadavka, alebo otázka, či malý starosta sa zapojí o eurofondy alebo nie, no nezapojí, ale keď s ním komunikujete, že tu máme nejaký ranking list v rámci materských škôl, a máte tam napísané, že od 1 do 100, tých prvých 20 je najväčšia potreba v rámci zvyšovania kapacít materských škôl, tí ostatní povedia výborne. Máme tu analýzu, vidíme sa prvej 20, my tí 20 teoreticky súťažíme, hej, tým dvojkolovým systémom, alebo nie, ale aspoň nezavádzame tých žiadateľov a zbytočne ich netrápime s tými investíciami do projektoviek, s investíciami ľudského alebo akéhokoľvek kapitálu. Hej. Čiže proste si presne povieme, čo je potrebné pre ten región. Všetci vedia, kde sa nachádzajú. Jedni sa sústredia na materské školy, druhí sa sústredia na domovy sociálnych služieb, čokoľvek. Hej. Ale takto si my predstavujeme čerpanie v budúcnosti. Jedna veľká stratégia, priority, vieme a rozumieme, že v našom kraji bude menej peňazí a preto sme aj za tie priority, či je to doprava, životné prostredie, sociálna inklúzia, ľudské zdroje, hej, kde vidíme vedu a výskum. Ale si všetci povieme, takisto vidím to aj pána rektora, že proste my máme veľké výzvy aj vo vede výskume a my si naozaj nevieme aj na tom Slovensku zadefinovať, že toto je výzva a poďme si povedať, že toto sú strategické projekty a rovno čerpajme, pretože potom prichádzajú rôzne projekty od vedľa a zbytočne predbiehajú len za to, že to niekto a dobre profesionálne napísal alebo, nechcem povedať, vyloboval. Čiže my si myslíme, že jedna stratégia, územná dohoda medzi všetkými aktérmi a už len vyhlásme výzvu a implementujme. Ďakujem.
Musím povedať, že veľmi dobrý nápad. Ja sa rada stretnem bilaterálne s pánom, lebo myslím si, že to sú veľmi dobré nápady, ktoré môžu prispieť do budúceho programového obdobia. Musím povedať, že aj do obeda sme mali stretnutie s regionálnymi zástupcami na úrade vlády. Markovi takisto adresovali šéfovia vúciek a miest požiadavku, že treba viac decentralizovať systém. My sa tomu nebránime, určite sa nad tým chceme zamyslieť a veľmi dobrý nápad, kľudne si môžeme dať stretnutie my dvaja a rešpekt.
Mark, vy ste mali u nás pomerne veľký sociálny kontakt dnes. Ste mali toho dosť celkom. Ja tak počúvam. Ešte 6 hodín večer, ste tu.
And the contacts are still vivid, yes. Yeah.
No, týmto chcem naznačiť, že my sme aj mali teda takú miernu dohodu, že dnes môže byť troška dlhšie, tak sme aj boli trocha dlhšie. Ale aby sme zase neboli príliš dlho, tak by som sa obidvom našim hosťom chcela v závere poďakovať. Ja som si vždy myslela, že alebo ľudia všeobecne sú presvedčení, že to je veľmi nezaujímavá a nudná téma. A Mark ma presvedčil o tom, že to nemusí byť nudná a nezaujímavá téma, dokáže urobiť krásnu prezentáciu a ja naozaj vždy, keď stretnem niekoho z Bruselu, tak mením názor na to, že kto robí v Bruseli, ako vyzerajú ľudia z Európskej komisie. Že to nie sú technokrati a nezaujímaví úradníci, ale práve že ľudia, ktorí majú nápady. A Vanda, sa ďakujem za to, že ste aj mňa osobne vysvetlili strašne veľa vecí a naozaj to bola podnetná diskusia. Takže ďakujem vám veľmi pekne obom a pekný večer ešte všetkým.
Can I just to, burnish my image that I'm not a technocrat. Could I ask a question to people here? If there is one thing you would want to change about Europe today, what would it be? What would you want to change about Europe? What do you think is wrong with Europe today? Gosh, we have 100% happiness. I would.
More of democracy. More of parliament.
What parliament?
European Parliament. More power to European Parliament.
The European Parliament co-decides on every law at European level. It does. I simplify slightly, but there are very limited areas where the European Parliament doesn't, and really weigh on the debate with the member states who are meeting in council, and then they need to find an agreement. It's like an upper chamber and a lower chamber. But you think the European Parliament still needs to be reinforced, yeah?
European Parliament cannot do the proposals of the legislation today. So it is only the European Commission and European Council, and these two institutions are quite non-democratic. If we see that the Parliament is more democratic, so I think he should have more power to propose the legislation. But I understand why it's not today. Really.
No, it's true, and that would be a very concrete change to the system. Well, that the European Council and the Commission are not democratic, I just leave it out in the open. The European Council is composed of all prime ministers of the different member states. So I don't know if you see them as legitimate or not legitimate, but they are somehow coming from their own national democratic systems. And when it comes to the Commission, because also it has this monopoly of making proposals, and because Europe is so complex, it is not a European government. It is, of course, endorsed by the European Parliament, has to be endorsed by the European Parliament, but the individual members composing the Commission first have to come from all the different member states, and second are proposed again by the national governments with, I would suggest, some democratic legitimacy when it comes to the proposal of the individuals who then compose the Commission. And if you don't get the absolute majority in the European Parliament, which you wish to strengthen, the Commission cannot start working.
My final remark that people in Slovakia, the last parliamentary elections show that the people doesn't understand the functioning of the European Union and these legislations processes. So that I think this is very complex system you described. I understand it, and I think it is a good system for actual political situation in Europe, but the people need more simplicity for the European functioning to understand they have the power in their hands. So this is the parliament, I think.
And we need to have more of the Slovak citizens participating in the elections to the European Parliament. If I remember well, Slovakia was last in terms of participation. I'm sorry. Out of control. Democracy.
Okay, thank you. So I will follow up on the predecessor, and well, I would suggest that maybe the decision-making process is cumbersome, but maybe I'm mostly speaking as a citizen, not as an official, because I am actually official. And in the council, I took part in the Slovak presidency, and we saw that many processes in the council were very, very cumbersome. And especially the decision-making process, where you need the unanimity, it's almost impossible to reach an agreement. For example, we worked on the MFF review. We had a deal, in fact, but it took us almost a year and a half to formalize it. So it was really, in fact, it was a horrible experience.
I can understand. But in the end, there was unanimity, right? And that is somehow, the miracle of the European institutions as well. We were talking about the budget there, and of basically asking the Netherlands, Sweden, to sign up to a deal where they think they send so much money to Brussels, and then it ends up in southern Greece or in eastern Poland, or you name it, poorer regions of Europe. And on top of it, these very, Protestant Dutch and or Lutheran Swedes, they have some doubts about what is being done with their money. But still, in the end, we get unanimity for them to share in the common pot. It is a bit of a miracle, no? And it's perhaps due to the complexity of the institutions that we get there in the end.
No, ja sa pokúsim na tú vašu otázku povedať veľmi jednoducho. Viete, zlepšiť dynamiku riadenia Európskej únie. Ja parafrázujem, ja sa odvolám na slova pána Churchilla, ktorý počas druhej svetovej vojny povedal, že ak on v tom parlamentnom procese a v tom zložitom prijímaní rozhodnutí má súťažiť s dynamikou vtedy nacistického Nemecka, ktoré išlo dopredu, tak to má veľmi komplikované. To povedal Churchill. A teraz vy ste pred chvíľkou povedali, že ako Čína ide dopredu, rýchlo prijíma rozhodnutia a podobne. Kolega tiež povedal, aké má problémy. Ja som bol minulý týždeň 2 dni v Bruselu a na Európskej komisii sme riešili vlastne otázku simplifikácie tých daní a zjednodušenia výberu, základu daní pri exporte pre malé podniky a podobne. A to je typické to, že prijatie toho rozhodnutia musí prechádzať veľmi zložitým procesom. Naozaj 28 štátov sa musí dohodnúť a podobne, čo voči tomu dynamickému rozvíjaniu sa jeden povie, ide to tak, treba z tej Číne a všetci tým zavelia, tak myslím si, že tu je určitá brzda tej Európskej únie, to, čo aj kolega povedal, tú ťažkopádnosť prijatia tých rozhodnutí. Čiže moja odpoveď je, vo vzťahu k pánovi Churchillovi, osobným skúsenostiam, zjednodušiť a zlepšiť dynamiku riadenia. To je všetko.
Well, this would lead us, I think, past today. Probably into tomorrow at least. I think we all are fully conscious of the incredible diversity which exists on this very small, not even continent, right? It's a peninsula, which is called Europe, ultimately. And I think we have to reflect on, when thinking about, improving how things work in Europe, we have to reflect about the alternatives. When I see that on average, one piece of legislation, from the moment it is proposed by the Commission until finally it is approved by Council, by qualified majority, normally not by unanimity, and by Parliament, there is about 1.5 years which elapses. Is that so much more than at national level? Very often not. At national level it takes just as long. And here you have to make 28 still, tomorrow unfortunately 27, so we will lose Churchill's democracy. Yeah, we have to have 28 democracies which ultimately buy into an agreement, which is no small feat. Obviously, one can dream of a system which would be, more fluid, quicker, and so on. But I am just wondering whether we would then strike the right balances and whether we would not create even more mistrust, in fact, among the variety of European citizens altogether, if there is not a minimum of time for these processes, in which already today, not everybody trusts because they have the impression that it's very complex institutions, etc. I mean, when I hear about China, I always tend to think about India as the alternative. Europe is a bit like India, same internal variety, same, yes, very nebulous democratic processes, and a certain slowness in decision making. But then I have difficulty in passing judgment between China and India. China might have developed over the past few decades much more quickly than India, but India, with its democracy and so on, and its heavier processes, somehow is getting somewhere as well. Takes a bit more time, but it is getting somewhere as well. So I think here we have to certainly be open for improvements of all types, but I think we also need to think hard before we would be sacrificing away part of our fundamental values ultimately. And I think the questions you are asking, in fact, are not specific to the European level. I think they are related to our democracies, also at national level, and to the relative crisis through which they are going. I think there is a problem of legitimacy of our democracies as they are working today, an estrangement by citizens across Europe who are participating less in elections, not only in elections to the European Parliament, but more generally. There is at the same time a request, an appetite for much more direct democracy, much more public involvement, and I think we all need to reflect about that to see how this could be better catered for, both at national level, for national democratic systems to be rejuvenated, and at European level as well. With that, we will not spend the night here, right? Thank you very much.